Marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa. Call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
And knocked down again. That was Christian Miller.
It's time for the Miller's Edge with four-time SEC champion and two-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here is college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
And welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Hope you guys are doing well. Ready to rock and roll for another 2 hours here on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, where we spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of chatting, Chase, talking about some sports. We got training camp about a week away, fired up about that. We'll continue talking some Alabama football as we keep counting down until that kicks off, because SEC Media Days was last week. We had plenty of I guess, clips and things to discuss. Still probably plenty we'll dive into or that we'll circle back to. But we're just anxiously waiting for training camp, which will be here before we know it. And that's when football really is officially back. But technically, I guess it kind of is already back to an extent, Chase. You got NFL training camp, that's kicked off pretty much for a majority of the teams around the league. I've already seen some news that Vita Vea requested a trade from Tampa Bay. That was a little bit of a shocker there. Not sure if there's any, Bucks fans that tune in and listen. I'm sure there's probably a few. I think Reagan is one from R&R Cigar. Shout out to Reagan. I think he's a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, if I remember correctly. But I know the Panthers had some bad luck. They had a couple guys go down due to injury early on. So it's part of training camp. Unfortunately, that happens. But I guess we are kind of in football season is what I'm getting at, right? And the NFL is already there. College is right around the corner here. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited because we had my dad on here and callers and guests. And we've been talking, Chase, for the last few months. But once training camp gets here, it's no longer just talking. Now, granted, we still aren't going to be able to really break things down like we will once the season officially gets here. However, there's going to be, some practices we'll be able to go check out. There'll be some scrimmages we can go kind of get a look at and see how things are kind of rolling from there. Quarterback battle, everybody's going to be paying attention to that, Chase. I feel like that's starting to heat up now in terms of the conversations regarding that. I know Greg McElroy had spoken about that on his podcast, Always College Football. So I'll play that clip in a little bit. We'll listen to that. We'll break it down because a lot of people have different perspectives when it comes to both of these players, Chase. You got one guy who's going on his, fourth year in the system under head coach Kalen DeBoer, a guy that also, which kind of want to talk a little bit about quarterbacks, because I think I heard Clint mention this too. I think they were talking about Ty Simpson, whether he's a game manager or a game changer. Then I was thinking about these two quarterbacks as well when you compare Austin Mack and you compare Keelan Russell, right? I feel like sometimes, we talk so highly of Keelan Russell, and rightfully so. Sometimes you got to take a step back and say, hey, man, you probably need to put a little bit more respect on a guy like Austin Mack's name, because, this guy's like a 6'6", 235-pound quarterback, right? He's got some elite measurables to work with, and he's got a lot of talent himself. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of eyes on both of those individuals in the coming weeks through fall camp. We'll definitely be paying attention to offensive line battles is going to be big, at least for me. Anytime I'm up there putting eyes on those guys getting after it, I'm definitely going to be paying attention. But really both sides, right? I'll be honest with you, not just offensive line, Chase. I want to see the battles between both of them, right? Because that's the good part about when you pay attention to trench play. Now, if you're watching the offensive line, you're also going to see who's flash on the defensive line. And that's something I don't think many people have talked a whole bunch about, just because you just expect the depth to be there, Chase. But besides the depth, I want to see who's really going to separate themselves outside of the guys, London Simmons. Tompkins had a really good spring. I know other guys, Steve Boomwa, right? He had a very productive spring with the extra reps that he was getting. Jeremiah Beeman, right? A name that's kind of been lost in sauce a little bit due to injury, but he was a guy that was really, making some noise last training camp before he ended up being dealt with that season-ending injury. So there's a lot of little storylines and things that I want to kind of take a little preview at. And if you guys have anything specific that you want to, preview, let's talk about it. 205-342-9994. Of course, I'm sure you guys want to talk about the quarterback battle, but are there any other battles, Chase, that people are really excited to hear about? I guess fans won't really get to see it unless I guess the only opportunity for fans to go out there would be, I guess, what is it called? Is it fan day? It's like the open practice day. And if you're like, yeah, Alabama, you can go down and get the autographs. I can't remember the name. I think it's called, is it fan day? I can't remember, but it's during training camp.
Day.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably really the only opportunity that people would get to see these guys before the season. Or I guess maybe a scrimmage if you're a Yay Alabama member. I'm sure they did that in the spring at least, and I'm sure they'll do that during the fall as well. But outside of that, you guys are just going to have to kind of just, there's no A-Day or anything to look forward to. It's really just the first game. So that said, we'll do our best to try to give you guys as much as we can and keep you guys in the loop of everything going on, and looking forward to getting into all of that. And football finally here, man. Chase, just feels good, man. I'm just trying to gear up. Because I know once it gets here, man, we're going to be like full throttle ahead, man. We got breakdowns coming. We're going to be watching Bama and other teams and weekly just fully loaded, which is exciting. But I already know we're going to have our hands full and looking forward to it. That's a good problem to have. In terms of some other things that had come up, Chase, on my daily scroll, here's one thing that I saw that I think it'd be a good conversation. We were talking a little bit about Ryan Coleman-Williams. And I'm not just saying this. I'm not just saying this either. I promise. For some reason, when we were looking at the what was it called? I think the preseason all SEC stuff. I randomly just was thinking about like draft. I don't know. I was kind of like previewing I guess the draft, right? Like down the road. And it's crazy that this came out like a couple days later, because I promise I'm not just saying this. In my head, for some reason, I just had a thought. I was like, I almost feel like there's a chance Ryan could end up being like a day 2 type of pick. And I was thinking that might be a decent topic to kind of talk about, like previewing, like who do we think would be, first rounder. Since we're doing like preseason all SEC, kind of just transition that to the draft. And so today I saw that there was a tweet, I guess from Rookie Watch, and it, I guess it claims that there's, I don't know if it was one scout or this says many scouts, but allegedly a lot of people view Ryan Coleman-Williams as an early day 2 prospect, which I feel like that's an interesting conversation to have, kind of building off what we've been talking about with him over the last couple of days, because I think many people would just safely assume with the potential, because you got to remember, when it comes to the NFL draft, it's not always production driven, right? A lot of times they want to look at, who you are as a football player, the potential, the upside, who you can be as a football player under their tutelage, under those, coaches there, how you fit in the systems that they have, right? There's a lot of times guys get drafted that weren't necessarily All-Americans or had the most, I guess, I don't know, they didn't light up the stat sheet, but they have a lot of potential to work with. That said, I thought it was curious, though, but they also went on to say one NFL scout believes that he has Garrett Wilson-type potential, but has to become more consistent. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that, including Ryan, right? The consistency is really probably the biggest issue with Ryan. So I think we all can agree on that. With a strong junior season, NFL decision makers reportedly believe he could easily rise to being a top 15 pick. So if we're being honest here, I don't think that's really groundbreaking. I think it makes total sense, right? If it ends up being a junior season and he ends up coming out following this year, and it has similar inconsistencies that we saw last year, I think early day 2 pick makes a lot of sense, Chase, especially when you talk about the other guys that will have their name called in the first round. For example, offensive linemen, edge rushers, quarterbacks, depending on how all those positions go, we all know, right? I mean, receivers have a good chance of getting their name called in the first round, but sometimes team needs can push guys, and I wouldn't be shocked if there is some inconsistencies. He ends up sliding to that day 2 range. But with a very strong season, I do believe that he easily, like they said in the tweet, could be a top 15 pick. Just kind of like how when you look at Alabama, you see the range, right? Like a lot of people feel it could be 10-2. Hell, if everything goes perfect, maybe 11-1. I haven't heard many people say that, but you get what I'm saying. And some people saying, hey, it could be 7-5 and 8-4. It's just a little bit of a range, man. So it's hard to really predict these things. But the good news is football season will tell us a lot, and we can answer those questions as they come up. We got to hit a timeout. We come back. We'll keep on rolling right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. Get locked and loaded. We got plenty coming your way when we come back after this quick timeout.
Get your life back, baby. Stephen Mezrano, Alabama Injury Lawyers. Mez wins.
Hey, it's Christian Miller, and I wanted to tell you about our friends over at Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy, founded by attorney and Professor Adam Lamparello, helping students at every level with mentoring, exam prep, applications, and career planning. Adam also represents students, faculty, and athletes in academic misconduct, First Amendment, NIL, and criminal defense cases. Known for real care and relentless...
Aleve will keep you moving. From sunup to sundown, Aleve's got your back this summer. Feel Aleve. Use as directed for minor aches and pains.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama, we are here treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world.
We're here for the rookies and the dreamers trying to make a name for themselves.
We are here for the achievers
who are resilient
and won't take no for an answer.
We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the next generation of legends.
We are here for you,
aggressively pursuing victory over injury.
Learn more at andrewsportsmedicine.com.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Heat advisory continues this afternoon. Cloudy, hot, 95. Heat index values around 107 with a light northwest breeze. Small chance of a passing shower or storm. Early storm chance this evening. Partly cloudy, muggy tonight, low 75. Sunny, hot weather continues Thursday and Friday. 95 tomorrow, 94 on Friday. Increasing rain chances over the weekend. Richard Wedding of the Weather Channel for Town Square Media Tuscaloosa.
It's 88 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Roll Tide, the best sports talk, period. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Now we got Reed behind the glass. Had Chase there for a second, and they just did the old musical chairs, kind of like Alabama's offensive line last season, just swapping guys in and out. That's kind of what we're doing behind the glass right now. I'm totally kidding. Hopefully that's not a huge factor this year. Reed, what's up, man? You rocking the stash again, or you
yes,
never
sir.
went away from it?
Yeah, no, I'm rocking the stash again. I was just telling Chase, I was like, dang, we're kind of twinning today. But yeah, no, I thought it was time for a clean shave, and it was starting to get a little bit out of hand. So that was the main reason.
I'm telling you, man, you might have some Italian in you or something. I'm about 20% Italian, man. You look Italian when I look at you with the mustache, man. You got Italian in you by chance?
See, it's so funny you mentioned that because I was just talking with my parents yesterday about how, you know what, I actually need to get a DNA test done because I don't know how it came about, but I was like, I'm kind of curious now myself, and so hopefully, sooner or later I can get it done, and I'll get you an answer on that.
Yeah, let me know. Everybody already knows I talk about my results all the time just because I find that stuff entertaining. I know some people. Who is it? That one guy, is it Jeremy in the chat? He claimed it's fake and stuff. I'm like, dude, it's literally a DNA test, man. It's not fake, man. I don't know if you just don't want it to be accurate, but it is. But you know what's funny? My brother was doing one, and he found one for cheap. It was on sale for $30, and so I just ordered one of those because I've already done one on another site. And so I was curious. I'm like, all right, let's try to check some of this accuracy and let's do another site and see if it lines up pretty well. I'm sure it's probably going to be, there's probably some slight variations there. But anyway, that said, I just got a notification that it arrived at the laboratory yesterday, I think it was. And so now I'm awaiting my new results. So I'll keep you posted on that if it's anything different. His popped up like 13% Portuguese, which mine didn't show that. So that was a little bit interesting. Mine was majority Italian, Scottish, Nigerian, and from my dad thing, which he don't want to claim. He claims I'm like, look, man, the results are there. You're Nigerian, man. I forgot what the other one was. So there's another big one on there. Drawing a blank. I know like French and German was like 7% each. So that's cool. Anyway, that said, let's talk some football. I see Off-Road in the chat. He asked about the jersey patches. We talked really probably about the whole show yesterday. So I don't want to spend too much time on that just because I know our listeners are probably, man, we talked about that for like over an hour yesterday. That said, just a quick refresher. My opinion personally on putting a logo patch on the jerseys, and a matter of fact, we got a little mock-up that we had made here. I'll throw it on the screen real quick. No, that's not it. That just made that's the ad thing. All right, I'll do it in a second. Anyway, in my opinion, I believe if it gives you an advantage, which it clearly would, like Ohio State and Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame's. First, it was Ohio State's deal that was announced. They said 15 to 17. I think it was actually more like 17. $17 million annually to put the Chase Bank logo on the jerseys. We're talking about football rosters climbing year in and year out, increasing probably by like 30%. Now, there's probably eventually going to be a cap coming in soon, but still, just think about this, Reed. I mean, say Alabama spent, I don't think they were a $40 million team, but let's say like 30. Say they're around 30 or whatever. If you can go find somebody to pay you $17 million annually, that's over 50% of the team roster right there, just by putting a logo on the jersey, which I don't take lightly. I even said yesterday, I mean, you see my jersey hanging up right there behind me, right? The pride and the tradition at Alabama. You don't want to mess things up. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. But if other people are using that as a competitive advantage, you don't want to fall behind. And my biggest thing was, we are currently, we're currently having to, for this 2027 class, because we recruited so well the first 2 years, allegedly, this is allegedly their plan, but we recruited so well. We have young talent. We were going to take smaller numbers. That didn't mean, higher quality players. But my thing is, it's evident that other schools aren't having to take that approach. Some of these top schools are being able to recruit at a very high level every single year, still plan on retaining at a high level and still plan to aggressively attack the transfer portal. I mean, we've gotten outbid. That's a fact. And we're taking a small class that also seemed like a little bit more of a conservative class, not just a small class by numbers, but also on a budget, from a budget perspective, was also conservative. Given those factors alone, I think you have to make the tough decision, if it even is tough at that point, to slap a patch on the jersey. Now, I also mentioned that I think it's very important that it aligns with, the foundation, the values, right? Everything that Alabama stands for, right? DraftKings, absolutely not. We're not going to promote gambling. No offense. Well, I mean, we're doing it on the show, that's a little bit different. I'm saying at University of Alabama, if anybody's got connections to DraftKings, hey, we're looking for a title sponsor, send the info. But I don't see Alabama doing that, right? Mercedes-Benz, I don't know. People are saying Amazon. You know what I mean? Like any of these, or a bank, maybe. Just something simple. I mean, right now, the field sponsors like the Build Giants Alabama, which is like the Navy. They're looking for people to help and assisting, like building equipment, submarines, stuff like that. Anyway, without going too far back into what we just talked about yesterday, those are my thoughts. I think if Alabama wants to be able to keep up with everybody else, you got to start probably making some of those sacrifices, which I don't think is that big of a deal, right? I mean, we've seen the Chick-fil-A peach patch, right? I mean, it's a big cow Chick-fil-A, I think so, something like that. You know what I mean? For bowl games, right? For the what are those games called? Like the first game of the year, like the neutral site games. If you throw something on there that I think aligns with Alabama, I'm fine with it. It's part of the landscape we're in now. I guess you could always just try it for a year, and if it's just that bad, Reed, I mean, why couldn't you just not renew the partnership? So those are my thoughts, right? If you want to keep up with everybody else, unfortunately, I just don't think we have the same level of backing or the commitment as some of these other places, right? I just don't. And so you got to get creative. And that's one way you could, because I think Alabama would be able to demand easily if Ohio State got 17 and Notre Dame got, what did they get, 18 and 20? Something like that. Alabama should be right in that ballpark. So those are my thoughts on that. And I appreciate the question. Again, I would go even more in depth. I kid you not, we probably talked about it for like an hour yesterday and had polls and everything. So I just don't want the listeners to get mad at me and start holding up pitchforks. All right. That said, let's see. We got a couple minutes. We can keep on rolling. Dwight said he tagged us in something over on X. Let's take a look at what Dwight tagged us in on X. Oh, okay. This is regarding the jersey patches. All right. So we'll continue on this. So this is a little bit more information on it. Good stuff. I appreciate that, man. Perfect timing. All right, Reed. So let's take a look at this first. Let me throw it on the stream again. We stream live every day on our platforms at the Miller's Edge. Check us out. That way you can see all these things that we're talking about. This is from the next round. It says college football teams and their corporate jersey patch. Oh, it's a tracker. So it's tracking all the teams that have done it. So we see Ohio State, we talked about with the Chase Bank. We see the SoFi Bank, right, with Notre Dame. USAA for Air Force and Army. Makes total sense there. Arkansas has Tyson Foods, which we all know that originates from Arkansas, as well as Walmart. Wouldn't be shocked if Walmart gets some involvement with those guys at some point. Memphis with FedEx. Wisconsin with Culver's. Trying to see if there's anything else that really just stands out. Some of these I don't even really like. New Mexico State, Inn of the Mountain Gods, Resort and Casino. I told you, Reed, I said yesterday, casinos, gambling, all that's going to, they got money to spend. So that makes total sense. XRP, that's crypto. If anybody was wondering what XRP in Kansas had going on, that is crypto. So, I mean, so far we've got, and then the Big 12, all their schools are Monster Energy. Yeah. You know, Monster does a lot with like BMX, motocross, those kind of sports. So that's kind of interesting. But that deal was terrible because it's like $20 million for the entire.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is the fact that Monster got such a great deal for
it's a steal.
The entire conference than less than what Chase is willing to give Ohio State.
Yeah, it's definitely a steal. There we go. It's a little bit bigger for you guys on the stream as well. Yeah, I mean, LSU, Woodside Energy, without a doubt, Alabama should do it if it brings in a bunch of money. All right, I hate this. I hate to sound like you're kind of selling out for cash, but this is the way I would pose it. Do you want to continuously have competitive rosters year in and year out and not have to rely so much on big money boosters who have clearly shown, like, I think they're going to donate and they're going to help, but maybe not quite at the level as some of these other top programs, which then means they're going to have to rely more on the fans? Or would you just say, hey, let's just put a jersey patch on there? Of course, it might not be our favorite idea, but it helps us have a much more competitive roster, maybe relieves a little bit of pressure off of the fans. To me, I think you just got to do it.
Well, Christian, like you said, you talked about this yesterday for about an hour, and maybe you touched on this, but I'm kind of curious, at least from your outlook of things, of how much does it weigh between how much money these companies might be giving you and the integrity of the culture that we're still trying to align here, right? Because I know you mentioned New Mexico State with the casinos, but imagine them, like those casinos are giving them so much more money than any other company would, right? So how do you kind of like outweigh that? Because you also want to, like you said, not be left behind, but you still want to be able to compete, but also keep the integrity of that patch on the jersey.
No, that's a great question. This is what I would do personally, Reed. I would open that dialogue up. If I was Greg Byrne, if I was working on that marketing team, I would open up that dialogue, and number one, I would reach out to partners that we currently have, right? Because Alabama works with a whole bunch of people. There's already a bunch of businesses and companies that pay them a whole bunch of money to advertise. So I would start there with the relationships that I have with all those people and see if there's any interest there. And then you can start getting a gauge on who might be interested. I'm sure pretty much everybody, but then you start having to set a price and see who might actually be able to fund that. And then you also can have people reach out to maybe some other outside organizations that might not have been working with you initially, but they might be interested in that opportunity, which it's not just always the patch. You can always sell people on a whole package, which a lot of these are, you get a jersey patch, you get this amount of, radio ads, this amount of, hey, coach segments, this, that, and the third. And then you might end up opening a new relationship with an even bigger company. In terms of what you mentioned, like the casinos, I think if it's Alabama, I think you kind of just already kind of say, hey, that's one thing we're going to say is off limits. Like, I mean, unless they don't mind, but just knowing Alabama and the tradition and I don't know, you know what I mean? Like the perception of, hey, we try to do things at a very high class. I can't envision them accepting a deal. Now, like I was joking around saying, hey, if Hard Rock Casino today, we got $100 million annually to put Hard Rock Casino on there. I'm going to be honest with you. Greg Byrne might need to think twice on that one.
And that's kind of what
I hate to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting is like, where is that kind of price tag, But
here's my thing, Reed. I mean, yeah, like gambling stuff you probably want to stay away from just because, it's like you got young players. But like when you see like the NFL and all these other sports leagues, they're already doing, you see advertising for all those companies all over the place on professional sports leagues. I just think like when you talk about students and they're underage, like from a, morality standpoint, like is it the right thing to represent gambling with young student athletes who aren't even of age, or is there a legal age? It was 18, 19. I guess most of them should. You get the point though. Like it reminds me of something where it's like, professional players that are a little bit older, maybe, but yeah, I don't know. But $100 million, Reed, is $100 million. So, if it was like Hard Rock or something like that, I'm sure that's one thing. But if it was, I don't know, like just straight up sports betting, maybe there's a little bit of difference between those. I don't know. You guys know better than I do, because I'll be honest, I'm terrible when it comes to that. I don't really know. I've only been involved with gambling when we had a deal we were doing with Underdog, right? And they gave us some credits to work with in part of the deal, and just know I was terrible. Yeah, I was bad, man. You would think I would be good at it because, like, man, but you do all the breakdowns. You just listen, man. When you have to pick like certain things to have, what is it, like legs or whatever, parlays? Hey, man, I was terrible, dude. I was so bad it wasn't even funny. So, all right, we got to hit a timeout. We come back, we keep on rolling. We keep discussing a number of things. We'll talk some training camp. What are you guys looking forward to the most? We got Clint Lamb officially joining us at 12 from Cover Crimson. We'll talk with him, get his thoughts on his most anticipated, I guess, storylines. What is this, a TV series? Not a storyline. You get that. What do you call that, Reed? Most anticipated battles, most anticipated.
Yeah, kind of like battles, competition, showcase, something along that line.
There you go. We'll use ChatGPT to give us some better vocabulary. When we come back right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC. Do you have cracks or potholes that are dragging down your property's appeal? Hey, I'm Christian Miller, and at Asphalt Restoration, we transform driveways and parking lots with expert repairs, new paving, or resurfacing. Fast, durable, and family-owned quality that you can trust. Don't let small issues turn into big expenses. Call 205-393-9.
Aleve will keep you moving. From sunup to sundown, Aleve's got your back this summer. Feel Aleve. Use as directed for minor aches and pains.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama, we are here treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world. We're here for the rookies and the dreamers trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers
who are resilient
and won't take no for an answer. We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the next generation of legends.
We are here for you,
aggressively pursuing victory over injury.
Learn more at andrewsportsmedicine.com.
Hey, it's Christian Miller, and I wanted to tell you about our friends over at Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy. Founded by attorney and Professor Adam Lamparello, helping students at every level with mentoring, exam prep, applications, and career planning. Adam also represents students, faculty, and athletes in academic misconduct, First Amendment, NIL, and criminal defense cases. Known for real care and relentless advocacy. For guidance you can trust, call 201-317-5115 or visit lamparello-law.com. lamparellolaw.com. That's Lamparello Law Education and Advocacy. Proud
what does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Where the season never ends. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. I guess these patch things are just, you guys are still cool talking about it. So, as long as you guys are good on it. Everybody's so interested in these patches, Reed. I guess people are really intrigued by it, which, I guess it makes sense. So we like my dad said yesterday, we technically, we're like on the last few dog days of summer, right? Well, once we officially get into it, there'll be so much football to talk about, we won't know really what to do.
Yeah, and I think it also brings just a new aspect of like, hey, now, there's just something new. All these teams are hopping on this. What will Alabama's, potential sponsor jersey patch kind of be? So I guess it's just something new that kind of keeps your eyes on it before, the season's right ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hell, I think it's interesting. I was just like, man, I don't want listeners to be like, man, they're still talking about those patches because, it's crazy. We got to the top of the hour break yesterday, and I was like, dude, we've talked about patches the whole first hour. I didn't even realize it, but then I was like, dang, I guess it was a good conversation to have. Just to segue into a couple other things real quick, I guess Dwight did say, he tagged me one more thing regarding those patches. So let me, Dwight is on it, man. I appreciate Dwight. He's like our show detective or whatever you want to call it. All right, so these are numbers from some of these deals just to put a bow on what we're talking about here. Let me put that back there so you can see it. It says Notre Dame's recently announced deal is the richest jersey patch sponsorship in college athletics, valued at $20 million per year. Now, that is a 6-year deal. So let me backtrack on one thing that I mentioned, Reed. I was saying, hey, you could just try it, and then if you want to go with, these are going to be multi-year deals. So I guess one thing to take into consideration is if you do decide to go this route in your Alabama, you're going to have to thug it out for a few years, I would imagine. You could probably work your own deal for worth a single year, but I can see both sides. If you want stability and longevity, it's better to do a long-term deal, but at the same time, if you kind of change your mind, you're in that. But my thing is it'd be kind of dumb to do it 1 year, then just take it right back out the next. I almost think that's dumb. But this is one thing that I would be considering, Reed. With all the talk about the bills that they're planning on passing, and they're talking about putting caps on things, money is money, but say that cap comes in and things are a lot more sustainable, would you then look back and say, now that things are more sustainable, we didn't really have to go get that jersey patch sponsor? Of course, it's going to help free things up. We were talking a lot yesterday. You still got a basketball arena that you want to get built at some point. We just saw Texas A&M, unveil some, I don't know what you call it, like a little village community thing set up near the state. There's all things that, you can use that money for other stuff. So it's not just a waste if they go back and then lower those caps, but that is something to consider. But there you go. You can see it on the screen. Notre Dame, Ohio State, they're leading the charge. Everybody else, you see $6 million, $4 million, $2 million. Clearly, Alabama would demand in the upper echelon, that 2017 range. Who it would be, don't know, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I just don't know the likelihood that it gets done, Reed. Training camp's a week away. I feel like you'd have to probably figure that out in the next I don't know, several weeks, man. I don't think you just slap a patch on it, 3 days before kickoff. Do you?
Yeah, and I think you would want it with a big decision like this. I think you would want to take your time and make sure that it is the right one, kind of like we just talked about. Make sure that you are getting a good competitive balance with how much the deal is worth, but also keeping like that integrity that we've been talking about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of those revisions to the Protect College Sports Act that they've been discussing, this was from a day ago from Ross Dellinger, and he had mentioned. This is a summary, which does include a new retention pool drop from $25 million to $20 million that schools can spend on retaining athletes in addition to the 21.3 revenue share cap. So that would mean you would have $20 million to spend on retention of your current roster in addition to that revenue sharing cap. I feel like that solves some problems. I mean, we're hearing like with Alabama, I feel like right now, maybe a little bit, but I guess their problem more so is just coming up with the money. I don't know. I got to look more into this whole thing. But while we were talking about this, I just forgot to mention this yesterday. I know because of the big fuss from several big programs or a lot of big programs and leagues, I think they're trying to go back to the drawing board and revise some of these things with this whole act, which the good news is we get Adam on the show tomorrow, and he can break this down even further with better detail. But I'll try to do the best I can while we take a quick time out because we're due for one. Matter of fact, speaking of ChatGPT, Reed, this is what you do, man. Quick cheat sheet. You take this picture, you just throw it in the ChatGPT, and you say, hey, summarize these revisions that have been made, and then it'll bullet point them, and I'll deliver that right to you when we come back after this quick timeout right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC. Do you have cracks or potholes that are dragging down your property's appeal? Hey, I'm Christian Miller, and at Asphalt Restoration, we transform driveways and parking lots with expert repairs, new paving, or resurfacing. Fast, durable, and family-owned quality that you can trust. Don't let small issues turn into big expenses. Call 205-393.
Best quality to our customers. So we just look at it as, hey, basically, we're your kitchen. You're just coming to eat in your kitchen. Taco Casa, under the biggest cactus in town.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama, we are here treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world. We're here for the rookies and the dreamers, trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers,
who are resilient
and won't take no for an answer. We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the.
Before it's too late, message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hey, it's Christian Miller, and I wanted to tell you about our friends over at Lamparello Law, Education, and Advocacy. Founded by attorney and Professor Adam Lamparello, helping students at every level with mentoring, exam prep, applications, and career planning. Adam also represents students, faculty, and athletes in academic misconduct, First Amendment, NIL, and criminal defense cases. Known for real care and relentless advocacy. For guidance you can trust, call 201-317-5115 or visit lamparello-law.com. That's Lamparello Law, Education, and Advocacy. Proud partner.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to be talking more Alabama Crimson Tide football. We'll do that with Bruce Marshall. We'll do that with Aaron Torres. And Coach Tony Franklin stops by as we get you ready for Alabama football practice at this point 1 week away. We'll talk about it starting at 2 p.m. on The Game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
The longest running sports talk show in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and 1230 a.m. WTBC. And streaming worldwide on the free Tide app. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Heat advisory continues this afternoon. Cloudy, hot, 95. Heat index values around 107 with a light northwest breeze. Small chance of a passing shower or storm. Early storm chance this evening. Partly cloudy, muggy tonight, low 75. Sunny, hot weather continues Thursday and Friday. 95 tomorrow, 94 on Friday. Increasing rain chances over the weekend. Richard Wedding of the Weather Channel for Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
It's 88 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Your home for Alabama Crimson Tide football. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And welcome back into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Reed, we got some good questions in the chat, man. We're going to talk some football here. We're talking about patches and what's it called, the Protect College Sports Act. We got Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson joining us in 10 minutes, too, so we'll definitely talk plenty of football with him. But let's hit some of these questions that are in the chat while we got a few minutes before we get to Clint. Somebody asked, was QD, he said, I want to know about these inside linebackers going into camp. When was the last time Bama had a first-team All-SEC inside linebacker? Off the top of my head, Reed, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's probably been at least, because you had the same guys last, 2 years or so? Before Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson, you had, man, why am I drawing who was before them?
Yeah, no, I'm also kind of here. I'm just like, oh gosh, I think just seeing them the past 2 years just thrown me off.
I mean, I remember. Christian Harris, Henry Toe, were they the ones directly before? I mean, they would have been in 22, I think, was Toe and Christian Harris, maybe. Let me see. In 2020, wait, hold on. Yeah, so in 24 and 25, there was none named to first team. It says 2023, Deontay Lawson, no postseason first team. I don't know what the hell that means. Henry Toto was second team in 22, second team in 21. I was about to say, I figured, dang, we haven't had a first team All-SEC linebacker since Reuben. Did you know that?
Did not.
I had no idea. We haven't had a first-team All-SEC linebacker since Reuben Foster, it says. Rashawn was second team in 2017. Mac Wilson was second team in 2018. Dylan Moses was second team. And then, like I mentioned, Henry Toe. I mean, so, we've had second-team inside linebackers on the All-SEC list, but no first team. So it's been 10 seasons without one. That's actually a good question because I had no clue. I knew, there's probably guys on second team. I just didn't know first, second, whatever. But so it's been 10 years. And then to the point about these guys, here's how I view our guys we have right now, Reed. It's really kind of hard to say just because there's just so much either newness or inexperience, meaning like Caleb Woodson, he's got experience playing at Virginia Tech, but he's new, right? He had a really good spring. I think he's a really good football player. Now, are we talking first team All-SEC caliber football player? Personally, I wouldn't have him as that. I don't think he was on any of the preseason first team, lists at all, which doesn't mean anything. He could still be one at the end of the year. Excuse me, I just had to sneeze. I'm sorry. So it doesn't mean anything, but what I'm getting at is I don't think anybody's necessarily projecting him to be that type of player. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's probably going to be the best inside backer potential that we have, right? I think that's what they expect. But first team All-SEC, I don't know if I see that. I wouldn't be shocked if he sneaks on maybe third team at some point. But the rest of the group, I just feel like there's so many different. QB Reese, I feel like is my favorite to be. I would say QB Reese, then Ruben's favorite, right? what's his name, man?
Luke Metz.
Thank you. Luke Metz, QB Reese. I would say those are my favorites for the next two guys in that room, right? And I think you see a bunch of snaps at all three of those guys. So, I mean, my thoughts on them, I think they're a good unit. Could they be better than what we've had the last year or two? Well, last year, I mean, I'm just going to be transparent. You know, Deontay Lawson was number one, phenomenal young man, great leader, right? Like, you know, he's very experienced. I mean, he played a lot. I mean, 23, 24, 25. I mean, he played a lot of snaps here in the Crimson Tide uniform. But he also was inconsistent, right? And that very well could have been due to the injuries that he had. But there were a lot of times, like if you turn on the tape, like, you know, issues with gap, right? Run fits, right? Gap integrity. You almost kind of like, you know, sometimes running out of the play, like running around blocks and just not really being in proper position.
Well, Christian,
right? So
I was going to ask you, so we're talking about first team all SEC, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, someone in the chat, I think, mentioned Jahad Campbell. And from what at least I've found from Alabama Athletics, a website, was that he earned second team All-American and first team All-SEC during the 2024 season.
Why would they not? This is why you can't trust ChatGPT.
But no, that was credit. I was going to say that's credit to TR3 Town. I was looking at the chat and I was like, wait, that kind of slipped my brain. And so.
Listen, and this is exactly why you can't over-rely on AI. That is 100% probably right. If you just said that, if you just pulled that up, yeah. Maybe, I don't know why I had a mistake. All right, that's why you can't trust AI. So we don't want them on the jersey anymore because that was ChatGPT. They've lost their chance to be a jersey patch sponsor here. You're right. Jahad Campbell probably would have been that. I was like, I know we're missing somebody. I'm like, I feel like we're kind of skipping them.
Because, yeah, I was going to say, I just remember from at least last season, there was that 2024 year that for whatever reason was drawing a blank. And then as soon as I saw Jahad Campbell, I was like, I bet you he did.
Yeah, no, he was extremely productive his final year. So much so, he ended up being a first-round draft pick. He just changed his number back to 11, by the way. So I just saw that pop up. So thank you, TR, I think 3 in the chat, or whoever that was. I'll go back and look in a second. But that being said, like I love Deontay Lawson, man. He's awesome. But again, from a football perspective, if I'm just being honest, like after the injuries that he had been dealing with, like if you go back to, was it like 2023 that year? He was playing some really good football. Maybe it was 24. I can't. There's one season he was playing some really good football. And then I know he was kind of dealing with the injury, especially like last year, because he got injured. 2024 it was like at the end of the year, right? Because he ended up not playing against Michigan. So I want to say it happened later in the year. But I feel like he had already, did he have an injury before that? I feel like I think he had 2 injuries, 2 significant injuries. Maybe not. Maybe it was just that one. Regardless, when you turn on the tape, like, and I was talking about this the other day, like sometimes what happens is like when guys play a lot and you just get so used to like the names and stuff like that, or they have moments, sometimes I think you put them on like maybe you view them in a certain way because of the name, right? But if you really turn on the tape, like they might not be living up to that same reputation for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, whatever, consistency. So my reasoning in saying that is I wouldn't be shocked if this linebacker room ends up being a lot better than people anticipate, even though you don't really know them as much because they haven't played. The bar wasn't super high from the linebacker room over the last. I mean, Jahad Campbell, yes, right? And I thought Nikhai Hill-Green was great, right? I thought he was like an unsung hero. Was he perfect? No. He had some limitations to him, but he was physical, right? You know, he played the game a little bit differently than some of the others, right? Like the way he addressed blocks, like that was one thing I always watched on tape and noticed. Nikhai Hill-Green was running through contact, right? He was always fitting things better than the others, right? He wasn't trying to avoid things. He was putting a hat on a hat. The other two, I feel like they were trying to be a more elusive type linebackers. They were trying to, fit things by using their athleticism and stuff. And to me, that leads to issues. I feel like Luke Metz, like Ruben was talking about, I feel like he's a downhill physical type player. I mean, I think he's a good athlete as well. But I just think maybe, just maybe, these guys could end up, even like QB Reese, you just watch how instinctive he is, man. I mean, he's quick, right? When he diagnoses things, he's quick. And he's getting downhill fast. So I think they could end up potentially being a little bit better than what we've seen out of the linebacker player of last season or so. Until I guess Jihad was what? I don't want to say 2 years ago, because I'm not going to lie, I don't see anybody outplaying him. But you know what I mean. Maybe like last year's linebacker play. We got to hit a timeout when we come back. We got Clint Lamb joining us here on the show from Cover Crimson, right here on the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We'll keep talking some football as we quickly approach training camp right here at Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Steve DeSager.
Tampa Bay Bucs defensive tackle Vita Vea has requested a trade. Colts quarterback Daniel Jones says he'll practice fully this Wednesday after last year's torn Achilles, but the Packers placed tight end Tucker Kraft on the PUP list, and defensive lineman at Green Bay Micah Parsons is expected to go on the physically unable to perform list after last year's torn ACL. Veteran linebacker and safety Jamal Adams signed with Minnesota. North Carolina football GM Michael Lombardi was placed on paid leave after a human resources complaint. To Major League Baseball, Miami ended a 12-game losing streak, coming back against Philadelphia 8-7 with 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth. The loss to closer Joan Duran. Houston with 4 runs top of the ninth won at the Angels 6-4. Victories for Boston and San Francisco. The Yankees beat the White Sox 9-5. Yanks outfielder Cody Bellinger is out 4 to 6 weeks with a strained hamstring.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama,
We are here
treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world.
We're here for the rookies
And the dreamers, trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers.
Who are resilient.
And won't take no for an answer.
We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the next generation of legends.
We are here for you, aggressively pursuing
victory over injury.
Learn more at andrewsportsmedicine.com.
It's time for the Miller's Edge with 4-time SEC champion and 2-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here is college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We're talking Alabama football training camp right around the corner, and why not do it with none other than Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson, who's joining us here on the phone lines right now. Clint, welcome in, man. Good Wednesday to you.
Yeah, man. How you doing today, Christian?
Man, I can't complain, man. We're making it, man. We're counting down the days. I want to say we're roughly a week or so out from training camp. So we're kind of previewing some of the things that we're looking forward to the most. Obviously, quarterback battle is probably going to make all the headlines, especially now that camp is here. I feel like it was a little bit more quiet this time around during the summer, but we all know that's heating up. I know Greg Macro was talking about it not long ago, but I want to ask you, Clint, since training camp's the topic and we're kind of previewing some things, what are if you had to name a few things that you're most looking forward to or most eager at seeing during training camp, like what battles or what competitions you're going to be paying close attention to, what would those things be, Clint?
I would say, obviously, quarterback is going to be the one that everybody jumps to initially. For me, I think they're going to be in a good spot regardless who ends up starting, so I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave that for everybody else. And I think it is, it's definitely an intriguing battle, but I think right tackle is one. We think Javen James is the leader there. Obviously, Andrew Bone with Yale, Alabama, he's kind of reported that Nick Brooks, the Texas transfer, is one that they very much expect to be in that competition with Javen James, so he's got to continue to get better. It's kind of been a weak spot for Alabama. They haven't had a lot of right tackle. You've gotten a lot out of that right tackle outside of J.C. Latham in the last probably half decade. So need to probably get, good play out of somebody that could be maybe potentially a weak spot for you on what I think is going to be an improved offensive line. I'm curious to see what the bandit rotation looks like. That's something that we were talking about. I just finished up recording a show with Jimmy and we were kind of discussing the bandits and we think Jamarian Latham's going to play there. We know Des Zulu's going to be involved. We know Devin Tompkins is probably going to start there and at the very least be the early down player at that spot. But then it's okay, you got Kevontae Henry, and then you've got guys, these young players like a Nolan Wilson, and the fact that maybe you're playing Xavier Griffin at Wolf instead of off-ball linebacker, maybe that allows you to be a little bit more flexible with the Jamarian Matthews, who I think is better suited for that bandit spot. And then you've got Maury Johnson, who's got some inside-out versatility. There's just some young players there that I'm just curious. I mean, you pay Nolan Wilson, at least I think they did, quite a bit of money. I know Miami came after him very hard late, and Alabama was able to kind of fend them off to keep Nolan Wilson. My guess is you probably had to give him a pretty sizable payday to do that. And normally when they've paid those types of players that type of money and they've got that type of talent, they kind of expect those guys to come in and contribute in some form or fashion. So with that expectation, no, he wasn't available for the spring, but I'm extremely high on the talent. He's got the length and the size, to kind of help out at that bandit spot. But that's one that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. Who starts next to Caleb Woodson at off-ball linebacker? There's obviously tons of guys who could. One of the questions that I've kind of posed is I think Caleb Edwards is going to be the starting tight end, but just as much as we've heard about the coaching staff ranting and raving about Josh Ford, is it possible that if they end up going 11 personnel against East Carolina on the opening snap and they're wanting to establish a better run game, that Josh Ford is the first tight end on the field for Alabama and a lone tight end set for the 2026 season? I don't think that's absurd. So, I love Caleb Edwards. I've spoken very highly of him. I stand by everything I've said about him. But everybody knows I'm a huge Josh Ford fan as well. So that's another one. And then, of course, running back pecking order, wide receiver pecking order, all that stuff is going to be in the conversation as well.
Clint, I want to ask you about one of the things you mentioned first. You mentioned right tackle, Nick Brooks being a guy that will be competing there. We know Javen James was receiving a large portion of those first-team reps at right tackle. No, consistency could be a thing to improve on maybe for a guy like him. He's got a lot of physical tools that you like. He's got experience. Just think consistency might be something that he could probably improve on. But someone in the chat wanted me to ask in regards to the guard battle and how that could maybe affect some things. I mean, you've got Michael Carroll currently at right guard, which I like him at. I think he's going to make a hell of a guard. He played some snaps there already. I think that's what he played primarily in high school. But we all know that he can also kick back out to tackle if need be or depending on the other spots. That said, at left guard, you got Will Sanders competing. I know, Waldrop is a guy there as well that you might pay attention to see kind of if he can earn some reps there. How do you see this line? Like, let's just, I guess my question is, everybody's kind of predicting the same offensive line projected starters, right? I think left tackle, you got Lloyd, left guard, Sanders, Delgatti at center, right guard, Michael Carroll, then right tackle, Javen James. But let's say they do shuffle it around a little bit. What would your second case scenario maybe be for that offensive line? Maybe kick in, I guess, Michael Carroll to right tackle. Who would you like at those guard spots? Then kind of how could you see this offensive line shuffling up some if we do end up in that situation at some point?
Well, it's fascinating because with the way Kalen DeBoer, I didn't think when they got Ethan Fields that he was the best schematic fit. He hadn't done anything where he had a lot of his starting experience at Ole Miss. He was a backup the entire time he was there. And so when they first signed him, I just wasn't overly thrilled about it. And then, just hearing Kalen DeBoer, some of the comments he made during the spring and stuff regarding Fields and how they had been impressed with him, I started thinking, well, it seems like they're pretty high on Ethan Fields. And so it even reached a point where, based off of some of the struggles that I saw from Mel Waldrop on A-Day, thinking from an intelligence standpoint, think he's got the movement, but from a power, having that core anchoring strength, I had some questions. And so I kind of softened a little bit as far as him being ready to be one of those guys. And then Nick Brooks kind of getting moved around a little bit. I started thinking, well, I'm predicting Will Sanders. I'm predicting Michael Carroll to be your two guards. I guess Ethan Fields needs to be that next guy. But based off of things that we've heard, maybe that doesn't need to be the case. Like I said, Andrew Bone has reported that, Nick Brooks has been actually competing with Javen James at right tackle. Jackson Lloyd had done enough from a work ethic standpoint, kind of proven himself behind the scenes this past season and all throughout the offseason, where they felt comfortable naming him as Alabama's starting left tackle early on. They have done nothing close to that when it comes to Javen James. So that's a spot. But I look at Michael Carroll, and another thing that Bone reported was that he's down to 325 pounds. Well, last year I want to say they had him listed at 6'6", 321 pounds. So it sounds like he's gained 4 pounds, but it's also possible that was not, an updated weight for him. And in fact, he was a lot heavier. But you would normally think, well, if he's dropping weight, that would suggest more tackle than guard. But guard in this offense is the one that's going to be pulling more. So I think that you would probably want your guards to be a little bit leaner and more athletic to be able to get out in space and get locked on guys. So the fact that they're talking about him being down to 325 pounds, that just, I think that he's being geared up, ready to play, right guard where he's played all spring. And so I think he can be absolutely dominant there. So I would say at this point, it's so funny because for a majority of the offseason, or at least the last, probably months, 4 to 6 weeks, I've been kind of pushing this Ethan Fields. And now based off of things that Bone's reporting, and when you hear certain things from certain people, then you can go check with your sources. They never want to tell you anything until you can ask them something concrete, and then they can kind of give you a yes, no. At least it's been my experience for the most part. But go to confirm some of those things, and they really like Mal Waldrop. They do really like Nick Brooks, and I think Nick Brooks is going to be a competitor at right tackle, and I think Mal Waldrop is going to continue to be a competitor at left guard. That doesn't mean Ethan Fields is going anywhere necessarily, but I think they like some of the options they have there. I do think Will Sanders is going to ultimately end up being your starter at left guard. So I think the most uncertain spot is right tackle. And then it would be a matter of, do they leave Michael Carroll at right guard or they kick him back out to right tackle? It is still possible if Brooks doesn't prove to be the best option at tackle, if James doesn't prove to be the best five or in your best five, it is still possible that you move Carroll out there. But I think ideally they would want one of those two guys to start and to leave Carroll at guard.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, and I like Carroll at guard. I'm curious to see how this whole offensive line takes shape, and I've heard Kalen DeBoer talk a lot about Adrian Clem and kind of what he's brought to the fold. There's one thing that caught my attention in the interview, and he was talking about the offensive line and in the running game from last year, and he started emphasizing how important that relationship between the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator is. And I don't know, maybe I was reading into it too much, but I was like, the way he just said that almost. Yeah, I was about to say it's almost kind of like writing on the wall that there definitely was people on different pages last year, which kind of knew. But when he had confirmed that, I was like, okay, all right, well, I guess we're being honest here, which is good. All right, in terms of the defensive line, Clint, I want to ask you about that. We had some questions in our chat regarding the depth there, right? We all know there's a number of guys who can step up and end up being, contributors on a very, deep defensive line room that we have that Freddie Roach has to work with. we know the big names come out of spring, right? Devin Tompkins, of course, London Simmons, who was, rehabbing an injury, but we know what he did last year, and we expect him to build off of that. And Terrence Green, made some noise. But in terms of the depth chart, Clint, for that defensive line position, if you had to go over kind of like what you did with the offensive line, maybe like a two deep and maybe just some names that you expect to be the first ones in there, how would that defensive line rotation look for you?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a fascinating conversation because there's so many guys who could. Obviously, Nolan Wilson can throw a wrench into things. If they do end up playing Jamarian Matthews a little bit at Bandit, he can throw a wrench into things. I think he's good enough to play in year one. But, you look at Bandit, I think it's going to be Tompkins. I think Des Zulu is going to be in the mix there. They seem to like him quite a bit. I've kind of said some of this, he's not the same type of player. Certainly not from a body type standpoint. Keon Keeley was 282 pounds and Des Zulu is 253. That's almost a 30-pound difference. But I think just as far as some of the limitations or questions that you had about Keon Keeley, you had the same conversations about Des Zulu. So is he a full-time Bandit, someone you can rotate in there to play an entire series? Well, I think you're going to have to at times. You don't have a choice. But I also think if they can keep it, more situational as much as possible, I think that's where he's going to have his biggest impact. But then, is it Cavante Henry, who's another part of that rotation? Is it Jamarian Latham, who I certainly think is going to be in that conversation? I mean, the fact that they are talking about moving Xavier Griffin to Wolf, now at that point you would have Yanze Pierre, you'd have Justin Hill. Matthews is still going to be probably playing some Wolf, and then Xavier Griffin. Well, maybe you could continue to commit to Jamarian Latham bulking it back up and playing Bandit, which he did for you 2 years ago, was technically your starter over LT Overton, and then having the size and the mass to maybe hold up a little bit better as far as asking him to play in those odd fronts, playing the B gap and things like that. I think that is a possibility. You talk about that nose position and tackle position, defensive tackle. I think there's just so many players like Steve Boonewa. I really don't know what to expect from him. In some ways, just a flash of talent and stuff. I could see him being one of the most impactful players along Alabama's defensive front over, pretty much anybody, maybe even a Devin Tompkins if it could click for him. But from a consistency standpoint, how much trust has he built from the coaching staff where they're going to ask him to play significant snaps and very meaningful situations where he can make that impact? I can't tell you that. We know we got quite a bit of run in the spring, but we also know that Edward Hill wasn't 100%. At one point, Terrence Green wasn't 100%. Jeremiah Beeman was still working his way back from an injury. London Simmons was out for the entirety of the spring. You didn't have, Malik Franklin on campus yet. So these are questions that I have about him, but we know Beeman, they expected big things from him last year. Assuming good health, you would expect him to be in the rotation. Isaiah Faga, they've kind of built him up as far as his impact. He's got some size limitations, but he's got a lot of quickness, and I think he can be a problem as far as in some of those obvious passing situations, expecting huge steps from London Simmons and from, Terrence Green. And then, of course, you got Kedrick Billing-Jones, who I haven't even talked about yet. Definitely think he's going to be a part of the rotation. But I think that Terrence Green had a lot of suitors in the transfer portal, like a lot. I don't think people realize how coveted he was for Alabama, and just knowing how coveted he was and how much they worked to get him on campus and keep him on campus, I think they're expecting massive things from him. So it's I wouldn't say that there's any just established star power along their defensive front, but just the sheer numbers and the possibilities as far as Devin Tompkins can emerge as a potential day one draft pick for you. Not necessarily going to go that far right now yet, but he has that type of potential. I think, London Simmons has tremendous upside to eventually be a day two type of talent for you. I think Steve Boonewa certainly has tremendous upside that we've talked about quite a bit. There's so many players who can end up being quality NFL draft picks down the line. And, so hopefully the rotation and stuff, all of the physicality and the grind of the SEC schedule, maybe one of the things that is really going to help this Alabama defense more than people realize is the sheer amount of bodies that they have up front where they can play winning football and kind of sustain. If one guy gets banged up, has to miss a week or something, or miss some time in the game, maybe a couple of guys, you can withstand that and still get quality play out of your defensive front. and that combined with a deep, opportunistic secondary, I think that can be a pretty good combination. So it's going to be a very good group up front, no doubt.
Yeah, and Edric Hill is somebody that I know in the chat, they were asking about him. We hadn't talked a whole bunch about him, just probably because he's been banged up and probably gets overshadowed by some of the names you bring in via the transfer portal. But I was watching some tape over the last couple of weeks, and he flashed. I mean, I think he's definitely got some good potential. Yeah, they've got guys that flashed, right? It's kind of like you said, it's just a matter of them putting everything all together and kind of who emerges. That's my biggest question mark. I was talking about that earlier. The depth is great. You can check that box. But who is going to really flash and be those guys that step up and emerge as the guys? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and, there were times, like Edric Hill, the thing about him is, and I agree, I don't think his role necessarily is going anywhere. I would fully expect him to continue to be a part of the equation. What I can tell you, though, is that they really wanted to get bigger up front. That was a huge emphasis for them as far as Terrence Green, as far as Kedrick Beanley-Jones, Devin Tompkins at that bandit spot being 20 pounds heavier than LT. You just get a lot of big bodies. Edric Hill's sitting there at barely over 280 pounds. Now, he might have gotten bigger. We'll have to wait and see when the updated roster comes out. But with that emphasis, that doesn't mean that he won't have a role, but he just kind of goes against that. So there were times last year where Edric Hill was that defensive tackle spot. Isaiah Faga was out there. And then when LT Overton and stuff wasn't available, you saw Keon Keeley. And it was like Faga, Keeley, and Hill. And it's like from a defensive front perspective, and especially with, Keeley, yes, he was 282 pounds, but he didn't even play like a 280-plus pound defensive lineman. They were way too undersized at times. And so I think that was a huge emphasis. I still think he's going to be a part of the rotation, but that is a question that I have, is exactly where does he fit in the pecking order?
Yeah, and to your point, the good news is you have all types of groups and packages, right, depending on who you're facing, the personnel groupings, and the type of team you're playing. I definitely could see him more as like a sub-package type of guy, like you said, go a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more athleticism in certain situations. Of course, just as a depth piece. But you're right. Yeah, I think that probably does have a little bit of a role in maybe what they're trying to do. And we'll just kind of have to see kind of how that plays out with this season and what teams they're playing, because I think that could have a role as well. Moving on back, Clint, to the linebacker room, we had some questions regarding those guys. My take on the backers, man, like, I was saying this today, then I think probably last week at some point. I feel like sometimes, you get so accustomed to names that, you have them, you view them as one way, but when you turn on the tape, it might paint a little bit of a different picture, right? And I think that's kind of been the case where a lot of times fans will say, well, we got this guy. But when you turn on the tape, the play is not necessarily in alignment there. And if I'm just being honest, I don't think we had great linebacker play. I just don't. That said, I think the guys that we have this year, they're younger, they're inexperienced, probably going to be some growing pains, but I think they got some potential to do some good stuff. What's your outlook on that room? I know we've talked about it during the spring, but going into camp, I mean, Caleb Woodson is probably the guy you're penciling in, but, QB Reese, Luke Metz, I mean, even Caden Jones, I mean, I think all those guys have a lot to like about them. There's a lot of intrigue there. Do you believe that this linebacker room this year, even though they're unproven and they're new, do you think there's a chance that they could almost outplay kind of the linebacker play that we got to see maybe even last year?
It's actually, yes, it is possible. I think that, like Justin Jefferson, Deontay Lawson, like, people don't realize that combination. If you look at the year before with Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson, they had gotten Lawson up to 239 pounds, and they had Jahad Campbell at 244. He had put on, I think, about 14 pounds, gone from 230 to 244. And then this past season, as far as the starting lineup, it was Justin Jefferson at, 228 or 227 pounds, something like that. And then Deontay Lawson, due to the knee injury, and I don't think he was able to work out and stuff, he had dropped quite a bit of muscle mass. He had dropped from 239 to roughly about 227, 228 pounds. And I didn't even question if he was even that big. And so just that's when you're playing kind of that 4-2-5 defense and you got limited numbers in the box. Yes, you want the athleticism, don't get me wrong, but when you're undersized like that, especially with an undersized group of defensive linemen in front of you, that can kind of create, you don't have enough mass there in the box. And so getting Caleb Woodson, who, played at 230 last year for Virginia Tech, now he's up to 239. You got Luke Metz, who's checking in at 233. Yes, I understand QB Reese is 229, I think, listed right now. You got Caden Jones, who's 31, if I'm not mistaken, at 6'4". You got some height there. I mean, I don't think necessarily yes, Luke Metz is 6'3", Caden Jones is listed at 6'4". I don't think either one of them have elite length, but they do have the height. They have the athleticism for the most part. QB Reese's instincts are fantastic. I like Abdul Sanders. I think he's got some old school tendencies with as far as the not a thumper, because I think he's a modern player. I think he actually fits with, the passing game. I think he's got some good coverage traits as well. But just it is a very deep room. And I say very deep. There's not a whole lot of established guys. But as far as trying to figure out who's going to be what I would call the three that are in the rotation, I just think there are so many guys. You still can't count out a Duke Johnson either. There's just so many of them. Even if they lose Xavier Griffin to that Wolf position, I like the group. I think Caleb Woodson's going to lead it. Granted, from a run fit standpoint, instinctually playing the position, I think he was seeing it well in the spring, but there's still some work that needs to be done on there. But I just think that with the way that I saw the improvement based off of what I saw at Virginia Tech, I'm very encouraged about that. I think he's got 3-down ability. I think he's got leadership qualities. And I think you got some guys that maybe can line up on the edge like a Deontay Lawson and get after the quarterback. So it's an intriguing room. It's by far the biggest question mark I have for the defense. But I agree with you. I think when you think about Deontay Lawson, the recruiting ranking and what we all thought he was going to be, and to some extent was prior to the injury, but I still don't think he was as good as we kind of built, me, myself included, we built him up to be at one point in time. And you talk about Justin Jefferson being a high-ranked JUCO guy coming out, and I absolutely loved his tape. I think as far as the off-ball linebackers, liked him the most of any of them. I think Mekhi Green had some limitations, but I think he also brought a lot as far as the run stopping and run fits and, things like that. Losing the experience of those three guys, I think is going to be something to monitor. You're going to have to get this young group some experience, but I actually like a lot of the options as far as what they can do with them a little bit more than maybe the last, at least last season.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I mean, from a skill set or even just an experience, like you mentioned, perspective, there's a lot of question marks, and there's a chance that they're not as good or they're around the same level. But I do just think when you kind of just go back and really watch the tape and you say, all right, there's definitely some things that our backers probably weren't great at. And then I would honestly, this might be a hot take, but it's just from my football perspective, watching tape, I think Mekhi Green showed to be probably one of the better linebackers we had a lot of times that he was in the game, the way he played the position. And so the way I look at it is if you bring in a guy like Caleb Woodson, who has definitely made some nice strides during the spring, stacking him up next to Deontay Lawson, can you get a similar output from him or maybe even better? I think that's definitely possible. And I look at QB Reese being a little comparable to a guy like Justin Jefferson, a little bit undersized, but good athlete, quick, instinctive. And then you throw in maybe guys like Luke Metz and maybe, Caden Jones in the equation. Even if they just play with a different style of play, they're more physical, right? They're eager, they're hungry. I think there's a chance, right? It's just worth paying attention to. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Clint, I know we've held you for a while. I got one last question, and it's about the quarterbacks real quick before we let you run, man. Because when I look at these two guys, it's like the tale of, you got the young freshman who's, been lighting it up in the spring. Again, the spring game is the spring game. And, of course, there was inconsistencies throughout the spring. But you can just see the talent, the upside, the potential that he has. And then you look at that Austin Mack, and he's also a very talented guy that I think kind of gets a little overshadowed because we just assume, all right, you got the special player, and he's just like a game manager type quarterback, which I don't think really is the case either. But if you're making that decision, if you're Kalen DeBoer, how do you go about that, right? Because on one end, it's like the older guy who's been in the system, you probably feel a little bit more comfortability with that option in terms of maybe, I don't know, understanding what's supposed to happen, what to do, how to manage things. But then the other guy, I think it's undeniable that he's going to – you're talking about making big plays. He's going to probably make a few more of those given his talent. That's a tough decision to make when you're talking about the differences between the two. How would you go about it personally?
It's going to be a tough decision. I think that there's positives and negatives to both. I think if you're Keelan Russell, it's all about being close enough to Austin Mack where, people like me, it's very easy for me or fans or anybody else to sit up here and say, hey, we'd rather you go with Keelan Russell. He's got the higher upside. We'd rather reach that higher upside. You might deal with some growing pains in the early stages. but we're totally willing to live with that if it gets us that, once he starts to get a grasp of things and kind of get his footing a little bit. And the bottom line is that's just false. I mean, yes, if the growing pains equate to you're still figuring out a way to win football games, or the offense is sputtering a little bit, but the defense is playing lights out, and you're winning. Yeah, you might be willing to live with a little bit, but if we were to sit here and say, hey, but you playing Keelan Russell, which I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm saying if someone were to tell you, I can guarantee you, if you start Keelan Russell, you will be better by the midway point of the season, but you're losing to Kentucky in week 2 on the road in Lexington. Would fans be okay with that? I would venture to say no. They would not. And so that's the decision that the coaching staff has to make. They are about winning football games. It's about scoring points. The point I made on our show is post-Mercer and post-Eastern Illinois in the last 2 seasons, Alabama's played 7 games. In those 7 games, they have averaged 15.4 points per game on offense. That does not include, obviously, the pick 6 against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. So they actually scored 27 in that game on offense rather than, the 34. But my point is that 15.4 points per game is unacceptable for a Kalen DeBoer-led program and team. And so you've got to score points. That is the bottom line. You've got to protect the football, make sure that you're not losing things on offense, but you've got to figure out a way to get this offense rolling. There's too many pieces. The offensive line, I understand there's going to be some limitations early, especially, but, that's what this is all about. And, I think at the end of the day, if Keelan is close enough to Mac where you feel like, okay, the growing pains with Keelan is not going to result in losses for us, we feel like that we can still get the job done. And then by the midway point of the season, we're ready to rock and roll. He's hitting the ceiling, and we have one of the most prolific offenses in college football. I would probably roll with Keelan. But another thing that we, tend to do is because, Austin Mack manages the game well, everybody assumes he's a game manager and that's it. He's got a good skill set built around his ability to manage the game. Now, he's still got to be a better decision maker at times. It's not like he manages everything perfectly. I just think he's further along on that front. But if they end up going with Austin Mack, it's not going to be like, hey, the offense is not going to be able to have the same caliber scoring output. Now, maybe to some extent, but I still think it can be a very prolific, very successful offense. So it's going to be an interesting battle. There's no question about it.
Definitely is, and there'll be a lot of eyes on that. I can guarantee that much. It always is when it comes to a quarterback battle, and this one is very intriguing, just like probably every other quarterback battle that there's been. So we'll definitely be keeping up with it. Clint, we appreciate you, man. I'm sorry for holding you a little long, man. Before we let you go, please let everybody know how they can keep up with all the good work that you got coming.
Yeah, no problem at all, Christian. Always enjoy talking to you, man. Appreciate you working with my schedule. If you want to follow along with me, you can follow me at Clint R. Lamb on Twitter. Also, get on over to the Cover Crimson YouTube account. Follow them there. Also, wherever you listen to your podcast, just search the Cover Crimson Podcast Network, and you can follow along Cover Crimson there as well. So, Christian, as always, brother, I appreciate you having me on, and I'll look forward to next week.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you, brother. Take care, man.
Absolutely. You too, man.
Good deal. Our guy, Clint Lamb, Cover Crimson, right here on the Miller's Edge. We appreciate him joining us weekly, taking time out of his day. We got to hit a timeout. When we come back, we keep on rolling. We'll respond to it. And
Ram, Tuscaloosa's destination for iconic Jeeps. Drive a new 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4, priced at $54,529.
Do you have cracks or potholes that are dragging down your property's appeal? Hey, I'm Christian Miller, and at Asphalt Restoration, we transform driveways and parking lots with expert repairs, new paving, or resurfacing. Fast, durable, and family-owned quality that you can trust. Don't let small issues turn into big expenses. Call 205-393-9149 for your free estimate today. That's 205-393-9149. Asphalt Restoration, where smooth roads start. Roll Tide.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama,
we are here
treating patients from every generation,
across the United States,
and from around the world.
We're here for the rookies
and the dreamers, trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers,
who are resilient
and won't take no for an answer.
We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Hey, it's Christian Miller, and I wanted to tell you about our friends over at Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy. Founded by attorney and Professor Adam Lamparello, helping students at every level with mentoring, exam prep, applications, and career planning. Adam also represents students, faculty, and athletes in academic misconduct, First Amendment, NIL, and criminal defense cases. Known for real care and relentless advocacy. For guidance you can trust, call 201-317-5115 or visit Lamparello-Law.com. That's Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy. Proud
what does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Heat advisory continues this afternoon. Cloudy, hot, 95. Heat index values around 107 with a light northwest breeze. Small chance of a passing shower or storm. Early storm chance this evening. Partly cloudy, muggy tonight, low 75. Sunny, hot weather continues Thursday and Friday. 95 tomorrow, 94 on Friday. Increasing rain chances over the weekend. Richard Wedding of the Weather Channel for Town Square Media Tuscaloosa.
It's 91 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
For more from Tide 100.9,
Let's it fly! And there's it! Whoa!
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
This Wednesday, this is the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Big thanks to Clint Lamb of Cover Crimson joining us on the show, talking all things Alabama football as we gear up for training camp right around the corner, about a week away. He had mentioned that Yay Alabama article from Andrew Bone, and I'm glad he did because I forgot, man. I had signed up for Yay Alabama. Finally, Reed, they got me, man. I realized it's only $5. I'm not gonna lie to you. I said, you know what? I need to just do it. I can't be talking about it if I'm not gonna lie. That's not why I did it. I did it because it's good content for the show. But also, it also says, listen, I want to support the guys. I didn't realize it's only $5 either. I thought, for some reason, I thought it was like 20. I thought the students was like $5. Maybe they've lowered it. Maybe they thought I'm still a student. I don't know. I just know it was only $5, and I'm like, you know what? I have no excuse, man. $5. That's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought I was in the same boat. I thought it was $19.99, but you're saying it's $5 now. I'm kind of considering it a little bit now.
Hey, listen. I will say this with Andrew Bone on board over there, and he's only been there maybe a week. Now I know they've had some other trouble over the last couple of days, or whatever. And I'm sure that will be ironed out. But with Andrew Bone over there, right, who was writing with On 3, man, he's been covering really recruiting, but Alabama football for years. You know, we get him on the show here and talk recruiting. We'll have to start getting him on still on behalf of Alabama. But, you know, his articles are always, you know, they're very informative. You know, he does a really good job. And then this is the interesting thing about it, though. It's like when you work for Alabama, your office is literally like next to the coaches. So, like, technically, you're like, is this just directly coming from the coach? Like, he's like just the official source now. I guess that's always good. You know what I mean? Like, it's I'm not saying it's connected because, to be clear, like, for example, the article today literally says it's got 3 asterisks and it's in the special font. It says this report is from Yale Alabama staff and not the official stance of the Alabama coaching staff or athletic department. Asterisk mark, asterisk mark, asterisk mark. But it's like they also will say like sources have told us, and it's like, oh yeah, the sources. You just knock on the door next door. The coach say, hey, can you just give us a little nugget here?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You just lean over like, hey, can you give me something?
So yeah, there's that. But anyway, yeah, $5. I mean, but Andrew Bone did write something for pre-camp intel, and this is what we're hearing on offense. But regardless, good stuff. And this is what Clint was referencing. Talked about the offensive line and talked about some of those position battles that are taking place, which again are in alignment with Clint was hearing and talking about. So clearly they are utilizing those next door sources over there. Also mentioned Josh Ford at the tight end position. Talking about people being extremely high on him, 6'6", 267-pound tight end. Of course, people are excited about him, new tight ends coach. I think a lot of people were fired up. The tight ends posted a picture in the locker room on X or something like that, and everybody was fired up. Good-looking group, right? Good-looking group, man. I mean, they got big dudes in there. They're all like 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260. So, I mean, I get it. There's some big bodies in there. Let's hope that they can, what does my dad always say? Look like Tarzan and play like Jane. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they look like Tarzan, they play like Tarzan. That's what we're banking on. I expect that to be the case, and hopefully that is. We got to hit a quick timeout. We come back. We keep on rolling. We'll keep talking some pre-camp intel and more right here on this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC. Do you have cracks or potholes that are dragging down your property's appeal? Hey, I'm Christian Miller, and at Asphalt Restoration, we transform driveways and parking lots with expert repairs, new paving, or resurfacing. Fast, durable, and family-owned quality that you can trust. Don't let small issues turn into big expenses. Call 205-393.
$2,500 in cash. This July, let freedom and fortune ring at Pearl River Resorts. Must be 21 or older to play.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama,
We are here
treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world.
We're here for the rookies
and the dreamers, trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers,
who are resilient
and won't take no for an answer.
We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the next generation of legends.
We are here for you, aggressively pursuing
victory over injury.
Learn more at andrewsportsmedicine.com.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to be talking more Alabama Crimson Tide football. We'll do that with Bruce Marshall. We'll do that with Aaron Torres. And Coach Tony Franklin stops by as we get you ready for Alabama football practice at this point 1 week away. We'll talk about it starting at 2 p.m. on The Game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Longest running sports talk show in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and 1230 a.m. WTBC. And streaming worldwide on the free Tide app.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
back into this Wednesday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Reed, this is why I totally forgot, man. I should have put our little Mercedes-Benz, I guess, mock-up on X. Now everybody's talking about it. But it, I don't know. You know what's funny? Yesterday, I really didn't mind it as much, but I don't know. That one just, I wasn't feeling that Mercedes-Benz one. I would almost say, like, get a brand that's, like, almost a little bit less recognizable so it doesn't look so, I don't know. I don't, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it almost like,
yeah, if
it's too recognizable.
Yeah, if you're seeing that logo so much that you just see it and you're like, okay, I completely recognize that. While if it's something that's completely unknown, then you're like, well, I'm not familiar with that. So it kind of, you kind of just brush it off.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we need to find something slightly, I don't know what that would be, though. Just recapping the last few parts of that Yay Alabama article on the pre-camp intel. Talked about Noah Rogers, who's making some progress, the transfer wide receiver from North Carolina State, who had gone down with an injury during A-Day. Appears that he's making some good progress. He's ahead of schedule, it says, and it still says it's a wait and see regarding when he'll actually return to full-speed contact. He's still viewed as someone who can make an impact against SEC competition whenever he returns to the field. I'm not going to say I disagree with that, but I would add, though, I mean, it just really depends, right? Because, I mean, a wide receiver, an ACL injury, I mean, like you're talking about explosiveness, cutting, you got to be able to move, right? While I do think he still could be an asset if he is able to come back this football season, how much of one, that really is to be determined on kind of where he's at in his development. Even get this, Reed, one thing that is really big, just that mind-body connection and having the confidence in yourself to go out there and do these things. Like when I tore my biceps, like, you know, I had surgery on it and I wasn't moving it the same for months. So when I first got back to football practice, number one, I was rusty as hell. And I was like, man, it felt weird to pass rush. I had done this in a long time against somebody. So that was kind of not like learning curve, but it just, I kind of had to kind of get back in the groove of it. Knock on wood, I've never had a knee injury, but I would imagine at a position like wide receiver where you have to plant hard, change direction, cut on a dime. Like, can he go out there and do it? Sure. But like, it would be, we really have to see where he's at, because in my opinion, it's like, if he's ready by, I don't know, say game 10, how much of an impact would he have compared to the younger player that's been getting reps the 10 games prior to that who has been fully healthy? Does that make sense? So I'm not saying I disagree with the article. I mean, I do think he's somebody that can make an impact. I think they're just saying in general the player he is. But I would argue that knowing that younger guys are going to be getting reps the whole year, all that time while he's out, and he's still going to be having to develop that confidence again, I don't know how much of an impact I truly would expect. Could he go give you some reps? Sure. Would I expect him to come be, wide receiver 2 or 3 off rip and say, hey, we're going to give this guy 5-6 targets a game? No. That's just me being honest.
And I think that's also playing in the part of, like, you talked about how mind and spirit with the body is, because it's almost like at least this is how I would think, is coming off of such a huge injury like that, you would think he'd be a little bit hesitant too. While those players who have been getting those reps, they're not going to be hesitant because they've been in motion for that long, while they're not having to think about it. While, Noah Rogers, on the other hand, might have to just, he's thinking back to, trying to get used to what he was doing prior to that injury.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. But I'm not saying he can't. I mean, me and Terrell Lewis came back. We were told we were going to be out the year, came back, played the final 3 or 4 games, whatever it was, and ended up making an impact. And we won a national championship. So I'm not ruling the guy out. I'm just saying, I would imagine, Ryan Coleman-Williams, Latzia Brooks, you already got those 2 guys penciled in as your top 2. C.D. Morgan, I always almost say C.D. Lamb, Cedarian Morgan, Derek Meadows, right? Rico Scott. I just think that as long as those guys are healthy and they're playing this whole time while he's out, I don't expect him to come in and just overtake one of those guys unless we just are struggling that bad at the position, right? Like Noah Rogers was really good this spring, very consistent, but I wouldn't describe him like as this spring. It was like he just was cooking everybody. It was more so like, man, this guy's super reliable, man. He's finding ways to get open, catches pretty much all these passes that are thrown his way. I mean, he was very productive, but yeah, I mean, I think he got some good depth in there where they should be all right in the time being while he's working his way back. All right, we got to hit time. We come back. We got some phone calls. We're going to try to slide on.
$9,000 for a free consultation, no fees unless we win. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be formed is greater than that of other lawyers.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama,
We are here
treating patients from every generation
across the United States
and from around the world.
We're here for the rookies
And the dreamers, trying to make a name for themselves. We are here for the achievers.
Who are resilient.
And won't take no for an answer.
We're here for the coaches,
athletic trainers, and mentors
who are shaping the next.
That's 800-553-7217. What do you have to lose? Call 800-553-7217. Again, 800-553-7217.
Find Tide on Twitter @Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
This Wednesday edition of Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Dale up first. Dale, welcome in.
Hey, Christian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You talk about your injury. That reminds me, I followed you on Twitter back in 2017, right before you came back to the Auburn game.
Oh, yeah.
And I sent you an emoji. Video? Yeah, you remember it.
Yeah, I made that WWE video. Just I was bored and I was like fired up when I was like, dang, they told me we can practice again. And so I was like, oh man. So I remember posting that on Twitter and it was like blowing up, man. And I was like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that because I'm like, we were not officially cleared. We just were cleared to practice. So then, of course, all the questions were like, hey, are these guys coming back? And I was like, dang, that coaches are probably mad that I did that. But it was fun, though. But, yes, I definitely remember that.
The Undertaker.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know how I thought of that specific thing, but I was like, him coming back, they like had him in the coffin or the casket or whatever. Then, I don't know. I really don't remember how it all came together, but I don't know. It was fun, though.
I sent it to you.
Wait. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I sent it to you. Yeah, I did. And then you may have reposted it or something.
Maybe I used
you
that.
You got a kick out of it.
Maybe, maybe. So I'll be honest. I know I edited.
I remember doing it, man.
That's where I found the. Maybe that's where I found the clip. Then I'll be honest.
I was in my office and did it. Yeah. I remember I was in my office and sent it to you. Yeah. It was pretty neat. You got a kick out of it. Yeah.
Maybe that's where the WWE clip came from. I just know I edited because I used screen recording on my phone to get the clips of Coach Saban talking and then get the ESPN panel talking there at a basketball game, talking about the linebackers being out and playoffs and all that. And then then I think I got then the Under Armour thing. Then I had to get the TV static. I recorded that, and then I put the whole thing in iMovie and made it. But yeah, if you gave me the idea for the WWE thing, I appreciate it. I don't remember personally. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do remember making the whole clip together. That is funny though.
That's cool. Anyway, I called about Futoa. Clint was talking about Futoa. I guess that's his name, number 14. And I'm really high on him.
Yeah.
Bandit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he.
What does he go by? What's his first name again?
Henry.
Henry. Yeah. He goes by something else, so I always get confused. When you watch the tape, man, and I did a little clip on him. He's got a lot of tools, Dale. He really does. He's explosive. I just don't know if he's having a hard time putting everything together. I know it seems like he's kind of overlooked, maybe not saying intentionally. There's probably a reason is what I'm getting at, but You know, when he got some minutes against whoever that was that we played at the end of the year, Eastern Illinois, or whatever team that was. I mean, like he flashes, man. He's got a great motor.
He did. I'm telling you. He got my attention.
Yeah, he does. I just wonder kind of what's holding him back. So maybe we'll get that answer this spring, this training camp, during fall camp. I'm sure we'll be able to kind of see a little bit more, consistently kind of him going against the offense and maybe try to diagnose maybe what's holding him back from really emerging. But I agree with you. I think when you watch the limited reps that he's gotten, he's got something to kind of like Steve Boomaw, where it's just like he's flashing. He had some of those moments, maybe not as many, but yeah, I agree with you. He's intriguing for sure.
Before junior college player coming out of his class there, and also he was recruited or he signed. I think he even signed with Oklahoma. I mean, this kid's got some talent. They need to really take a good long look at him.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolutely, Dale. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're hitting this top hour break, man. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time. That was Dale on the phone lines. Big thanks to him. And big thanks to our friends over at Lamparello Law. Check them out, lamparello-law.com for all your representation needs. Again, criminal defense matters, academic misconduct, NIL, you name it, they got you covered. Plus all those services for high school, college, and graduate students for academic and career planning, subject matter mastery, exam and test taking preparation. They've got it all. And the best thing about it is affordable. Lamparello-law.com is the website. Lamparello Law, Education and Advocacy. Mr. Adam Lamparello, who joins us every Thursday, tomorrow, right here on the show. Big thanks to them and what they're doing. Check them out, Lamparello-law.com. That'll do it for us on this Wednesday edition. Big thanks to Reed, all you listeners, streaming, radio, internet, all the good stuff. Look forward to doing it again tomorrow right here at the same time, same place on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9.